Hey friends, it's Mike with another MedRep tip for you. Today we're going to talk about the importance of working with the entire staff in hospital sales. Now this video is part of a larger video about hospital sales tips in general, but the staff partnership is so important I wanted to break this out so more people could see it. Let's go. Okay, the next topic is really understanding that there is a real need, and I would say an urgent need, to know that it's more than just the prescribers at the hospital that matter. There is real power within the staff, not just from an access standpoint, right? You can't get into the hospital if you can't get past the gatekeeper, right? But because they can provide value to you in identifying patients that can lead to more business for you. So it's more than just the prescribers, right? If you know the person at the front desk, or you know the person who is at the head of the unit, right? The beginning of the unit, right? Or you know the secretary, the administrative people for the various doctors or medical directors, they're going to help you to get access, right? And without access, you can't do anything in hospital sales, right? You're always going to be visiting the medical arts building instead of actually getting into the hospital, which is where the real business is done. But the staff has the power for prescription potential, right? A nurse who's working at the bedside of a patient who identifies that the patient is not doing well on their current medication, and who knows, if you've educated the nurse on your product and the benefits of your product, that nurse can tell the doctor who's rounding next, hey, maybe this patient I notice isn't doing well here. I think that other product that Mike has might be an opportunity. What do you think, right? So even though the nurse doesn't prescribe, the nurse can help identify the patient. And even if she as a nurse is not, in the position to advise the doctor, doesn't feel comfortable the doctor recommending the product, just pointing out that the patient's not doing well and maybe the next step of action may need to be taken, the doctor can refer to the protocol, which hopefully that next protocol step involves you, because you've worked with the medical director. It's going to get your product written, right? So that's certainly the power of the staff right there. There's also a lot of other things that the staff is involved in. When I say the staff, I'm not talking about just, frontline personnel like a nursing, respiratory therapist, medical assistants. It also involves the executives in the C-suite. It involves people in the supply chain. It involves equipment techs. All the people that have the chance to touch your product in some way, whether that be once a year or more with contracting, or every day with the staff, you need to try to have a plan for developing a relationship with them, because that can involve contracting. It can involve not just maybe not the development of protocols, but certainly the implementation of protocols. It can certainly involve consistent utilization of the product or continuation of therapy. If your product needs to be tapered down over time, right, the staff needs to be educated on how to do that. It can certainly involve protecting against adverse events. You don't want something to go wrong with your product because the staff wasn't educated on how to use your product or how to alleviate potential side effects, right? And all this adds up to overall product success, right? So best practices potentially for working with the staff, obviously, is getting to know them, but providing education to them. As we already talked about, medical directors have goals to increase the competency of their staff. If you can provide education that is about the disease state that you're involved with, or the product, or whatever the case may be, the medical device, if you have that, helping the staff to gain that education on a consistent over time, continuing to do this, there's real value there. You also need to be honest about the potential for side effects and adverse reaction, not only because it's the right thing to do, but also because it creates opportunities. I remember years ago, at one of my large accounts, I thought these guys were experts in this medical device I had. And I didn't realize that, while I provided when I provided education to both day shift and night shift on a regular basis, I wasn't able to touch everybody all the time. And again, with staff turnover being what it is, there was the case where this high volume unit had some people on the staff of the night shift that didn't really know how to troubleshoot this medical device correctly. And although it didn't necessarily lead to any adverse patient outcomes, it could have, right? Thankfully, they were able to identify to me they were having this particular problem. And when I went in and troubleshoot what was happening with the team, I was able to identify that it was just really a lack of of competency because of a lack of education. So I was able to create a series of troubleshooting workshops where I would make things intentionally go wrong with this particular medical device, not while it's on a patient, mind you, but in a controlled training setting, and then have the staff solve those issues on a hands-on manner, right? And this was a wild success that I was able to do because not only did I help them increase their confidence and prevent potential adverse reactions, but I was able to take this throughout the rest of my region with my other hospitals and then share that tip with my counterparts at a national level so other people could implement the same type of troubleshooting workshop and help their hospitals as well too. And again, the bottom line is when the staff is confident with the use of your product, particularly if you're working in critical care units and particularly if you have a high-risk, low-use medical device or a very high rare disease type specialty pharmaceutical product where it's not used very often, and these are very critically ill patients, it's very important to help the staff be confident in the use of your product because it's going to lead to better patient outcomes and more use of your product. And what ultimately happens here then is you develop what I call a pseudo sales force. Shout out to my old boss years ago, the guy who first hired me in pharmaceutical sales, Kevin Bacon, not the actor, the actual pharmaceutical district manager, who first helped me understand the value of what a pseudo sales force is. And basically what this means is you're educating the staff and making them so confident on identifying patients who could benefit from your product and also how to use the product that they actually kind of sell the product while you're not there. So that's a very, very powerful thing when the staff is able to identify patients for you even when you're not there, because it leads to long-term consistent success, which is what we're talking about today.